Yeah, I'm surprised it's not a trash day. Usually the wind.
Yeah, right, if it's windy, it's trash.
Maybe it's a fence day though, you know.
Right. Yeah, there's some out there that are struggling.
Well, I've got one propped up. It's been propped up for a long time.
One of our fences between us and our neighbors blew down right before Christmas, so that was exciting.
Yeah, it makes for an interesting day. You gotta do something about it.
Yep.
Mine's on the boundary, and there's a prairie dog colony, or was a prairie dog colony, so you don't want to have too long with the fence down because you don't want the prairie dogs to think it's a place to settle.
New pets.
Yeah.
Put too much into landscaping that property to have prairie dogs decide that.
Yeah, right.
You do
Dig holes.
landscaping.
Unintended consequences.
Yeah. What does it look like on our agenda, meeting? How many people said they could come?
I have only heard that can't come. Joe's out of town. And Michelle can be here, but she has to be done
By 6.
By 6.
So the clock is
And I haven't
ticking.
heard from Lisa.
Lisa?
And Kimberly, she's usually coming from Boulder, if I remember correctly, so she's kind of
And the invite you sent out today that I didn't respond to yet, that was for March 14th?
Yeah, that was the joint dinner.
Yeah.
It's on the it's on the agenda for tonight as a calendar item, but I was thinking about it, so it's on a calendar item because it's an out of the ordinary day for the group.
And is it starting at 6 or 5:30? Do you know?
6.
Okay.
Yeah, so this year there'll be for the.
So I imagine I'll be getting
You'll
a
get
few invitations then coming up.
Yeah, you'll get lots of.
It's that time of year.
It's time for that. Like we figured if you could show up.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Tanya.
Hey, Tanya.
You're new here.
Yeah.
Come on in. You thought you stuck in? Oh, good. I haven't heard from you.
Somebody came in with the restrooms.
Yeah,
Good.
I spoke with him. I saw her.
There she is.
I saw her.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Desi.
Hi, hey.
That's right. You were.
Hey.
How are you?
Yeah. Remind me.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, that's right. Nice to meet you.
I don't even remember.
You don't even remember because it was so long ago?
So long and so fast. No, it was great. It was great.
How's your trip?
What happened?
I slipped on ice.
Oh,
You know, so many people
I know.
I've met that have and broken bones. Or
Yeah.
it's been an icy winter so far that just refuses to go away.
What right after? Well, actually, exactly a month ago.
So, like on your way home from last month's art camping?
No. That's not miserable. Not miserable, but closer. So yeah, it was a Monday morning. So
Hi, how are you?
I got a little bit of patch of ice in front of my house, and I happened to step on it.
Just in the one spot?
Yeah,
Oh, bummer.
where's my the slippery shoes? So that was a mistake.
I slipped while putting ice melt on my
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Oh,
But I didn't get hurt.
You just jinxed it, Joe.
Yeah.
That'll teach you.
You gotta wear the cramp, you know.
Yeah.
I've got pretty good.
Some of that ice, you know, this was ice that melted and then refroze overnight. That's like a skating rink when that happens.
Especially in the wind, like the wind out.
Yeah.
It's so slippery.
This wind is going to do some nastiness to me.
Yeah, hopefully you can
Get up early in the morning.
Hey, Lisa.
How are you?
How are you doing, Jeff? Good holiday?
It was good.
Yeah. Did you stay here or did you go to
Went to Frisco.
Frisco. Okay, you didn't go back to the islands or?
No, not in the winter so much. Just go in every once in a while to check in to make sure it's not burned down or anything.
Do you have a webcam there?
Yeah.
I was wondering.
And a little sensor, so it tells us what the temperature of the house is, that sort of stuff.
That's important to know, like, quick, turn up the
It's
heat.
below 50.
Can you control it? Can you
Yeah.
turn the heat up?
Because it's heating in the floor and stuff, so you kind of have to turn it on the day before you go there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's freezing cold for a long time. Takes a while that mass to heat up.
That's pretty neat. I just got that over some.
Sorry, Lily.
Do us have Arbor Day?
Oh, you know, it's never too early to start thinking about next year's events.
Next year.
Now
It's now
already
this
started.
year's.
I know, now it's this year's. Well, we're at 4. I think Michelle's gonna try and get you to do this evening. I need to do this one during the long.
I haven't heard.
We need five?
Thursday, the day that
I
she
think.
normally goes to London.
She does, and she's gonna try and be here for the first part of this meeting, so we
Okay.
can have quorum, and consider the work plan. No brief meeting today. But I can get started with the.
Stuff that, yeah, the stuff we don't need a quorum for.
Hopefully Michelle can get here before 6. Try and get at least a potential consideration of the motion for the work plan. So a couple of updates. The annual Christmas tree collection program with the Scouts happened last weekend. Turned out well. Just want to give you an update there. It happened, and then a couple of calendar notes. The joint session that the town board hosts with each of the advisory committees and some other outside groups, like the Rock Creek Master Homeowners Association and the Fire District, and a couple of other groups are being scheduled for the first few months of the year. So this group is scheduled for March 14th at 6 p.m. So that's an out of the ordinary date. I sent you all a calendar item when I put it in my calendar yesterday. So it's
6
March
p.m. you
14th.
said?
Yes.
6 p.m. And we should plan on that, having dinner at that.
Yeah, come hungry.
Yeah.
Come hungry. We have the catering on the joint meeting nights. My two favorites are the fajitas and the lasagna. So it's,
Do you get to choose?
sometimes I can try to
Influence?
yes, prevail on Phil to pick something that whoever the liaison of the group wants. So if you guys have a favorite, as long as it's fajitas or lasagna, I'll put it in the menu for you. So calendar notes. So that's a Monday. It's a couple months out, but I wanted to give you a heads up that that'll be coming up. And like you've all been, I guess as you have been informed, this is an opportunity for the town board to sit down over a meal and kind of sync up with each of the advisory committee groups. It's around a table here, and we just sit around and go over items that are of importance for both the committee and then also try to sync up with what the board's looking for from each of the groups. We've gone over a work plan, talked about specific programs in the past. Just a good time to kind of just meet, sync up, get to know some of the committee members, and build a relationship between the two groups. Those are always great. So March 14th.
There you go.
Hey,
Hey.
Michelle.
Sure. You can grab that chair behind me. I don't think I started without me.
We were starting, we of course didn't start on the work plan without you.
While Michelle gets settled, I'll just wrap up there. So joint session with the town board, got the calendar item in your email, so hopefully that's what y'all can make. It is a Monday, it's a board meeting night. The two calendar items looking ahead, household hazardous waste and hard to recycle collection event, April 16th, again this year, and then also the same day as Arbor Day, so very similar schedule to this 2015. Really it for new business and any updates. One item that I noted on my agenda that I didn't include was the town board's annual goals. So up on the wall, actually, the frame is down. This is having annual goals reprinted. the town board this week at their retreat this quarter approved a final set of goals for the year, and under the support environmental sustainability goal, there was an added, actually two objectives that aren't necessarily new, but they were new to formalize in the annual work plan or board goals for this year. So expanding water efficiency rebate program, and then also initiating a public education and promoting some of the ongoing town programs. You know, every year it seems like we talk about the number of programs that this group, this advisory committee, has been critical in establishing in town. So making it a town board goal this year to try and do some additional public outreach and education about some of those ongoing programs. So that wasn't on the agenda, but I wanted to make sure that was actually on your radar. So that was really it for new business and updates and calendar items. Leah Yancey from the Boulder County Commissioner's Office was scheduled to come by in one of the first meetings of the year and go over where the PACE program and some of the other county programs are at this point. She couldn't make it tonight, but she gave me a couple of updates that I can pass along to the group. The county it's January, so we're all starting our new budget year, and the county has their full complement of programs and updates for programs with some good, interesting tweaks to some of the programs that you've seen in the past. So we'll be looking forward to having her here and talking about some partnership opportunities for programs that we can try and coordinate on, or at least serve as a clearinghouse for information about the programs that the county and their staff have going on, which are always great. And then also, she had a calendar item to make you all aware about, or make you all aware of, in March, also March. So this would be the Wednesday before the town board joint session. So March 9th, PACE is going to host a business after hours event with all three of the chambers here. So the Superior, Louisville, and Lafayette chambers. She wanted to give us a save the date for March 9th from 5 to 7. They haven't decided on a location yet, but PACE is going to host. PACE has gotten involved with all the area chambers as part of their outreach and trying to get more plugged in with each of the communities in the county. And they are going to host a business after hours, which are always
From
nice.
5 to 7?
Yes.
March 9th, you said?
March 9th. March 9th, 5 to 7. Location TBD. Yeah, Wednesday, March 9th.
Yeah, and then RCAC meets the next day.
Yep.
Well, that just surprises me. Normally they do those on Thursday nights. And
Oh.
I know that Heather is at another event that night because I'm at the same one, so that's why I'm like.
Oh, conflict.
Yeah, that's why I was shocked.
That is, that, you would think that business after hours would.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think they might have tried to schedule it to not conflict with this meeting, since ours was the next
That
day.
was sweet.
Actually, I don't think that. I know Leah did that.
Yeah, we had talked
I wouldn't
about
put it
that,
past
but I'm trying
her.
to figure out how her and I are both gonna be somewhere else at the same time.
So that was it for kind of the update items, and then the look-ahead items. So, like I mentioned in the email with the agenda, the town board has got an agenda item for the second meeting this month, the meeting of the 25th, to go over the advisory committees and commissions work plans. So over the last three or four meetings, this group has had a chance to take a look at these during the meetings, and I've sent the draft work plans with the meeting notes. And we have incorporated, or I've attempted to incorporate, the changes on screen here that the group has mentioned over the course of these last couple of meetings, with the additions, changes, revisions. And I sent them out again with the calendar and again with the agenda this week. So you've hopefully had a chance to go over them. If there are questions or additional clarification items for the group to go over, now's the time. And then also, if the group is ready to contemplate finalizing the recommendation for the board, this would be a good opportunity to make a motion indicating that, so that we can include this as the recommended set of work plan items for each of the quarters for this year when the board considers them during their meeting on January 25th.
Because we do have quorum.
We do.
I have a question. Can we also put on the work plan something about assessing and comparing the reported tonnages and comparing to other communities in the county and that sort of thing, to see how our progress is based on the reported tonnage in the hauler. I'm not saying what quarter, but I'm just saying, I mean, I guess whenever, they're supposed to probably submit it by the end of the year, right? So I think we should have, a critical review, is that good, is it, could we do better,
Review.
how are other places doing, that sort of
So
thing.
review Superior's performance
Yeah.
on recycling, and that's basically recycling. Is there anything else that they?
We can look at the yard waste tons that the town gets.
Okay, I'm trying to remember when they get that data, and so it would be a logical time for us to do, which quarter?
That was the only thing I thought I was missing.
It'll happen.
Mm.
It's available. You look at Rock Creek this month.
So it could be a second quarter thing to look at.
So-
What time when does the town get?
Same.
Second, this month?
Well,
I
yeah,
would
like
think it
Jim's
would be
referring to
first quarter
the,
thing.
Oh, we wouldn't have, so we'd have to get from
Rest of the year,
from the other jurisdictions, how they're doing, or,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
so how do we get that from the county, or who has that information?
I help do a county survey every year, so, all communities in the county.
and that's usually conducted kind of second, third quarter-ish for a report to the county after
No,
that?
we've gathered it more quickly than that this year.
Hmm.
So-
We're doing a statewide thing.
So,
Did you get an invitation, by the way?
I did.
Okay. So, yeah, we've gathered information on all around.
So moving it up a little bit this year, so.
Well, I think, the reason I think it would be nice, if the data are already earlier, it'd be nice because it would help guide a little bit about what we do the rest of the year. If we find there's a big honking gap, maybe that's something we should be working on. Rather than find that out in October and go, oh gee.
And have the time to go to get it before we really need it.
It's also a good way to make sure and nudge the haulers, hey, we want that report.
So, Lisa, there were a couple of other bigger picture goals that you had brought up that were captured here as first quarter items.
And the C&D and the.
Yeah, so would it make sense to just add it here since they're really, well, I guess my sense when you first brought this up a couple of months ago that it didn't necessarily matter which quarter it was in, it was just capturing it over the course of the year. Would it make sense to do something like this?
Well, it doesn't mean it all has, I think that we should be doing that in the first quarter. It doesn't mean it all gets completed in the first quarter. It's a
Mhm.
lot in 3 months. So that one, number 3, might be worth repeating in quarter 2 also. Because that's a big thing, I think. I could be wrong.
Item 3 on here, the confirming compliance?
3 on there, confirming
Okay. Mhm.
compliance.
I don't know much about that, but it seems to me that in order to get the certificates and everything, that nowadays they would have to meet a certain code.
That is the theory, but is that what's actually emphasized in that, or do they care more about the plumbing code than they do about this stuff?
Okay.
That's sort of where we're coming from.
Okay.
And how's it being interpreted, and, is it written in a way that gets what the behavior and the design change, the design that we are thought it would mean, so.
Okay.
Because sometimes you write something that you think is clear, and someone else finds a way to not interpret it that way.
And is it town code or is it county code or is it?
It's town code.
But it would be a nice check, since development is starting to happen again and then some, it'd be nice to catch any gaps now rather than after everything's done,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think sometimes though, I don't know who's responsible for making sure, because we all know that the building codes were not followed even
This
when
is
our
not their
houses were
priority.
constructed, yeah.
Well,
Is it something we can unofficially do somehow ourselves?
No, I don't think we can do that unofficially
can interview.
ourselves. No, but the building codes are enforced as things are built. So that's, and we have inspectors, and I just had a furnace put in, and an inspector came to my house, so.
Yeah, but, maybe, but for the inspector, they probably have a checklist.
Oh, that's good.
Where in the
Are
world,
we
is this
adding?
on their checklist, or is this sort of like so below priority they don't even really bother with it? I mean, so I think
So you
interviewing
wanna
these people.
really, or-
Interview these people, or having them present, or whatever to us, might be a way to
I think that's a
raise
really
their
good way to go about it, because, yeah, I don't know how they do it, but we all know that the building inspector does not fully inspect
I would
everything.
start with Alex Aronello.
Yeah.
Work down, because I don't know that he'd be happy with his responsible area being interviewed by. I think
Well,
he's,
that's a combination. So there's public improvements and then there are private improvements. So, it depends on which items you're talking about. So like Joe's thinking maybe the public improvements
The
or.
code. We're talking about the code, so it's both.
right, but the building inspection and all of that is done under what department?
It's under the manager's office with the building department, Ernie Curran, the town's.
No, that's not
building-
under Alex?
Oh, no.
Yeah, good. I didn't think it was.
I can't hear you, Jim.
So, anyway, but I think that's.
It's under you,
started.
Martin. Okay, so we'll interview Martin.
I think we can start in Q1, but I suspect it'll take till Q2 to get it done. That's all I was trying to say.
I agree.
And so it would be nice to get the thing about the tonnage and all that, or the performance in Q1 started at least also. But otherwise, thanks for getting all those in.
Sure, I didn't capture, I'm sorry, Jim, before you go on, I didn't capture anything on screen. Was there something
On what?
particularly? I didn't add anything here yet?
Right, and
So-
you stated something like performance, checking the performance of.
That was Joe with those
recycling
great
and
words.
yard waste in town,
Sure.
and yard other communities.
So before we move on, I wanted to capture that on here.
I think our
I didn't- I didn't-
member of the audience has a question.
Yes, you do have to, Jim.
Jim Payne, Superior resident. I was just going to suggest, Joe, if you had your furnace done and when the inspector comes around, you'll know this, that there are other things they look at. For example, they look at your CO, your carbon monoxide detector, make sure you have one in the right place. So there may be other things that they could look at, and there may be, you wouldn't want to go, I'm sure you wouldn't want to go too far with this, but there may be questions they can ask, that just might provide information. But anyway, just a suggestion.
We have the water heater.
And maybe the starter with Ernie on how is it anticipated that we're supposed to verify that this, because he's the one that was presenting the code to us that we adopted. How's the town going about enforcing it or implementing it? That's a good start. And
I
then-
think
Like,
that's what we're talking about.
all I can say is it cost me $500 and they were there for 15 minutes. So you might be able to ask a few more questions.
Well, I don't want him in there any longer than that. I'll pay him more to stay out.
When he came by, he made it pretty clear, it seemed pretty clear that he didn't expect us to be dying to have him there.
They are.
We had a water heater replacement just
Yeah.
last
Same thing
month.
with the water heater and windows, they were
What
very
about
specific
windows?
about what
What about windows?
you're replacing windows, they come, and you pull
No,
it.
okay, I'm only replacing one cracked window.
Oh, no, I'm talking about
I was like,
replacing.
oh my God,
A
I
big
had
deal.
expected.
HOA.
HOA approves, but then it's also a building code thing too, how they're installed and what kind of windows
Thanks.
are installed.
I don't have any window anything, never mind.
I'm turning you in. I gotta call Ernie, wait a minute. I think Martin.
Don't rat me out!
Too late, Lisa.
Fixing
We
a
got
cracked
you.
window is not, you don't
So-
pull a permit for that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's the house settling. It did one of those things,
Yeah. Great
So,
news.
are you gonna add the performance thing to Q1?
I would be glad to, yes. So
Thank you.
Q1?
I think so, because
Okay.
we want to get that data and be able to do something out of it if we find an issue. Tonnage or recycling performance data or some such thing. Thank you.
And We want to compare performance with
Yeah.
other jurisdictions.
And I don't care how much of it he
Yeah.
writes on there.
Yeah.
I think we know what we
And,
need.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just review collection data. Recycling, I guess, is specifically what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's collection of trash and recyclables, because
Oh,
you need a
both. You want
percent.
trash too?
Because you need a percent, that's the
okay.
performance.
I would come up with
So
a
that
percent
you can
without needing
see
that
if you're tracking
information.
your goal.
It's
I don't-
totally fine.
What do you need for a percent?
So that we can track
Yeah,
our.
exactly.
Numerator.
I think
My running goals.
we only need a reminder, it doesn't have to be, gorgeous, so, thanks. But I think that was the only thing I saw in there that I felt might be missing.
Did everybody else have a chance? Did everybody else have a chance to go through this whole document and kind of make any comments and changes, additions, anything else anybody wants to see? I guess not. I mean,
No, we did look through that, like,
but nothing else? I mean, we're all good? I mean, do you want to really read through it again just to make sure? I just,
Yeah, maybe skim through it, just, I mean, I've read through it, not think about it.
So I feel like we've gone over these several times over the last couple of months. I don't want to belabor each of them again. But if there are any clarification items, or if there are any questions, if there's anybody who's missed a meeting where we might have talked about something, obviously feel free to ask, and I'll be glad. Or if there's any other members of the committee who want to help fill in the blanks, if there's an item in here that you don't recognize or you're not sure what it is,
I
feel
think
free.
those ongoing things are so encompassing that
Yeah,
we're.
broad.
That we're in good shape, pretty much.
Yeah, agree.
Promote the town's diversion goal, yeah, that.
how about getting them to,
That covers it. I think we can
Redo it.
do what we need to do underneath that, so.
yeah. The biggest problem, though, is they removed that diversion goal from the website, and there's no mention of it, so I don't know if we need to get them to redefine it, or what.
I don't know who we're trying to tell it to, if it's on the website or not. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think it really affects anybody. It's more what we do, so, and what we get the town to do.
so, for fourth quarter, the number one, continue recycling education. Isn't that like a ongoing thing with the school, schools? Is it just because we want to review the budget, or?
No, it's well, we've talked about it a couple of times. So it is a budget item, yes. And then I think it was just spaced down to the fourth quarter just as a way of spacing out some of the goal items, because it's an ongoing program that the town has participated in with the schools and with EcoCycle, with Wise with Waste, and the locker room, the locker cleanout program, and the tours program, which have been great programs. I think they're on an annual cycle, and that's when their budget is considered as well as ours. So I think once the town board has had a chance to approve a budget, then we let the folks at EcoCycle and the county know that the town will continue to be a supporter for that program, or not, if it were eliminated. So I think it's made sense as a fourth quarter item.
Michelle, are you on a short leash?
Sorry.
Are you on
Oh,
a
so
short
you're looking
leash?
for a motion?
Sorry, my apologies. I had to do something right at that minute. No, I
That's
can.
what
I'd
I
like
was-
to make a motion to approve the work plan.
I would second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so unanimously approved? Great, thank you.
I'd say so. Enthusiastically, ecstatically.
I heard somebody cheering.
Yay! There you go. sorry, it's very important stuff.
I knew you had some kind of conflict coming up, so.
You'd laugh if I told you.
No, I don't want-
Cookie booth, seriously.
Huh?
You have to send it right now, otherwise I won't get it. So it's done. Not yours now. All right, so that's good. So you'll clean it up, Martin? We don't need to worry about it? We can leave
Thanks,
that in your
Martin.
capable hands to get that all prettied?
It's extraordinarily capable hands.
I like the
I wouldn't say that,
multicolor
but it's very
approach
nice of
right
you to
now.
say it's not hard to hit click on review and then accept changes.
Yeah.
And
As
stop
long as nobody
tracking.
tells
Don't
anybody
forget
my
the end stop
secret.
tracking.
So I'll save this. This will be the version, you can see the name up here, the 114 committee meeting. So this will be the version.
16, right?
Oh, yeah, maybe 16 would make sense. Thanks for catching that before I send it out. So this will be the version that'll be in the town board's meeting packet for the meeting of January 25th, like indicated earlier. And then it'll be up to the board, like I mentioned. The board members receive the recommended work plans from each of the advisory committees during this meeting. And sometimes they make changes, sometimes they don't. It's completely up to them, and they might have some follow-up questions or some items for clarification that staff will attempt to clarify if we can. And then it's up to them. If you remember last year, this one was approved at a subsequent meeting after making some additional changes. So that comes up. There was one item that I saw listed on the work plan that I neglected to touch on when we were looking at the agenda, the monthly newsletter articles. If you had a chance to look at your newsletter this month, the items that we talked about last month were included in this month's newsletter. So it's the Christmas tree recycling. The town's yard waste site was opened the day after Christmas for anybody who wanted to drop off their Christmas tree. Boy Scout troops, the two groups, Troop 575 and 278, held their program, like I mentioned, on the 9th. That was in the newsletter. They had a good turnout. And then the options for discarding unwanted bulk items listed again. A couple more. And then, Joe, you mentioned a month or two ago wanting to figure out how to find the right light bulb for your fixtures. The county has a some great resources on how to pick the right kind of light bulb and also how to dispose of them.
Go to the LEDs.
I know, but there's a million types of LEDs too.
Colors don't match.
Makes it tough.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to get enough of one type right then and make sure you have enough.
So that, yeah, I mean, it really is a research effort to buy a light bulb anymore.
Yeah, you're making a commitment. It's not just, the old GE 40 watt.
It's true, you are.
Actually, I run out and buy those 40 watts wherever I can find them.
I know, isn't that funny?
Oh, I buy the hundreds.
Hundreds.
And 150s, because I can overlamp it, because it doesn't make heat, so that's what I do. The older you get, the brighter the lights you want, sorry. Sorry, you guys.
I'm glad that's not just me.
But isn't it only over 75 watts that restriction's on? Like, they can't make any more above 75 watts?
So they can't make any incandescents after a certain point,
Yeah, that hasn't come, but it's coming.
But I know they.
So you have to figure out what's the right one to match the brightness that you need.
Exactly.
Because they don't use the same measurements.
Well, the thing, does that site explain all the stuff about floodlight, interior floodlights and dimmers and how you have to change the dimmer? Some of the stuff gets pretty complicated.
Yeah, I haven't moved on to the dimmer stage yet.
Like their kitchen, we have a whole bank of them. You've got to change them all and then change the dimmer.
And make sure you get the right type of dimmer too, because just getting a generic LED dimmer oftentimes doesn't work.
Lovely.
Yeah.
That really does
Guess I'll
sound
be
like a
testing that
commitment.
theory this weekend, because I have a dimmer.
As long
to
as you get
install.
one that says it's approved with X brand.
I'm sure it's
whatever
not.
LEDs you have. Probably work, we're just liquor a lot.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed for you.
I have to say, I mean, I would love to see businesses, though, adopt it. So up at our family's business up in Loveland, we bought new overhead lights, these sealed LED boxes.
Mhm.
The facility is so bright, it looks so good. We actually thought we were going to have to paint everything, and then all of a sudden we put in all these new overhead lights to replace the bars, the bar style, or whatever you want to call those. Oh, it looks beautiful. It's just funny. You're like, wow, look at all that work we didn't have to do just because we changed the lights.
Mhm.
Yeah. made a huge difference, and they were pretty cost effective to change. All right, so what's next on the agenda? Anything?
No, that was really it, trying to focus on being done by 6, because there were a couple of folks who needed to
Okay.
turn into pumpkins, or not be here after that. So we were hoping to get a motion if you were ready to contemplate one for the work plan. And then Leah couldn't be here to go over some of the PACE stuff. So that was really it.
All right, so everybody's got all the other dates on their calendar then?
April 16th is the day that you know we're going to be busy in the morning.
Yeah, are there people on committee that are going to be able to be there? I will not. It's a 4-day weekend, so.
Is it?
It is. It's the school weekend. I keep on saying, I'm like, bad weekend, but.
Happens every year, doesn't it?
It is a bad weekend, so that the date, that April 16th date that we're hosting the Household Hazardous Waste is a 4-day weekend for schools, professional development weekend for the schools. And because the town doesn't have a facility where we can host this, we're
have to do it.
reliant on the school district to allow us to use their parking lot, and we have to set up the day before, and it has to be on a day when there's no school. And it also has to be on a day when staff from EcoCycle and Boulder County are available.
I think for most people it can work out, just, yeah.
And it's worked out fine the last couple of years, having it there.
Yeah.
And it's had a good response. We've had, I think, a neighborhood of 160 to 185 people attend each of them, so it hasn't been a precipitous drop. It's had a good carrying capacity, a good consistent participation. But obviously, there's never going to be a perfect weekend.
Nope.
Every time we post this, I always get some emails or some questions, but why that date? Well, or people who want to come by and can't that day for whatever reason, whether they're skiing or out of town. Why can't you host another one? And I let them know that this service is available all year round. Or, with our partner groups at Boulder County, we're just trying to host one locally to just make it a little bit easier and help people learn about some of the services that are available through the different agencies around the county. But having it be convenient is always such a great help. And it's working well with the school district. And until the time when we have our own facility, we are reliant on them.
Yep, I think it'll be good. Maybe can encourage people to get all ready for it on Friday. Be there bright and early on Saturday, and then head over here for Arbor Day stuff.
And hopefully we'll have better weather. If you remember last year, Kimberly, you were there, a couple of us were there. It was a little brisk at the beginning. The second shift people had it a little easier, but there was still a good turnout, even with a little bit of weather. I think the Arbor Day turnout was a little down, just because of the...
And I just read it, they overlap. The Hard to Recycle's from 9 to noon, and Arbor Day is 10 to noon.
Mm-hmm.
Only a 1 hour difference.
Yeah, there's been some overlap in the last couple of years when we've had this. So you can go to the beginning of one and the second part of the other, or the second part of one and flip-flop. Joe's already thinking about how he's going to get between them.
I already know I'm on an airplane.
Oh, well, an easy decision. So I'll put you down for the first shift. But over the next couple of months, I'll send some reminders like I have in the past of what's going to happen and when. And then if there are a couple of people who can help do a little bit of the intake. If you remember, if you've been with me at the beginning where people drive in with our clipboards to try and help figure out where they're going and what they're bringing so we can track that from year to year. Last year was a little tough with the snow, and it made it a little illegible. But
Yeah, all the papers are wet.
All the papers were wet,
So-
yeah.
And not readable.
You did your best.
Just to encourage you, I heard that the forecast, well, I think it was an article in the paper last week, the forecast for our winter with El Nino is that it'll be relatively calm, except for today, and not, just not overwhelming snow until March and April.
Oh, until March and April, perfect.
Of course.
Thanks, Joe.
Just thought I'd.
Yeah.
When you get out.
I did hear it was supposed to be a very wet spring as well, so yeah. Okay.
Jim, you asked earlier about the information about what kind of light bulb to put where, and there's some great information on the county's website. And they actually mention the dimmers, but there is a breakdown for the different, it's a matrix showing the different kind of colors and wattages that I think,
That's
I
what
know
I'm
I've
talking
seen.
about.
It's LEDs where you see
Right.
it also.
This is not,
But look at that, the
There's
ceiling fans, they got you right off the bat. use CFL bulbs specifically designed for use in ceiling fans. How do you know?
No idea.
Yeah.
That's a dumb thing, yeah.
I guess
Sadly,
you-
I know the answer to that. I've actually
You
put in a
know as
ceiling
if
fan,
the
they actually
vibration
say
kills
them.
it.
They're a different size, and they'll actually say on the bulbs, I don't know if it's just a marketing ploy, but it'll say for appliances, and some will say for ceiling fans.
Ah.
But I think it's just a ploy to charge
guarantee.
more for a bulb that really
Well,
doesn't have
maybe it's
anything different.
sturdier because of the mercury.
Well, it's supposed to stand up to the vibrations, yeah. Right, the mercury would be a bad thing in your ceiling fan to be whipping around.
And when you got to that, Martin, you were able to just click through things from the town website, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's all CFL. Who's using CFL?
Yeah, how about
This is the
LED?
hazardous waste section, so.
Do they have an LED section?
I know, the CFL is kind of outdated now, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need LED,
Let's
that's
see if
what I
we
wanna
can
see.
LED.
It's the suitability section.
That's the wrong,
How do you make people adopt LEDs? First, you introduce CFL.
Yeah, see, we skipped over a bunch of the CFLs and just have
It's
gone
so
straight to
bad
LED
get
now.
Mm-hmm.
I hated the warm-up time. It was enough to,
Although, we put CFLs in our bathroom, in our master bedroom, and that's awesome because in the morning you can wake up and turn on lights and they slowly come on as you're waking up. So it's not like
Instead of-
blinding. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It's like the one time what's actually nice.
good call, good call.
Everywhere else we have LEDs now, but.
All right.
There is a good source for the information we're looking for, and it's just not popping up on here. But I'll send it to you when I send the meeting minutes out.
okay.
Sounds good.
Meth lab pollution,
Oh, lovely.
that's interesting.
So Martin, in terms of like the Arbor Day stuff,
Yeah, I bet.
are any contacts and whatnot that we had wanted already lined up, or how does that work? Because I know that before, we've been in a position where we haven't been able to get some of the ones that we want due to our short time frame of request.
Well, like the work plan mentions, the group has had it as a first quarter item, and if there are some folks that are interested in being invited, by all means, feel free to do that. Rachel was great about reaching out to
I know.
the arborist for City of Boulder. His name is in my mind, Dave Sutherland. He was great, and he was available one year, a couple of years ago.
Right.
And then last year, I don't think she had a chance to reach out to anybody. So somebody that, well, I wasn't there because I was at the Household Hazardous Waste, but there was another arborist who was available to speak that day. But if there were other people, I think that's why it's stayed on here as a fourth quarter goal, kind of leading into the first quarter.
So, do we know
Initiating Arbor Day.
anything about who the town's invited or any of the plans? Because really,
Well, the
it's
town's
January.
inviting who the town invites, like normally, we usually have an arborist, and then we invite other folks who are interested in being here. But if there are other groups that, members of this committee or somebody wants to be a point person to reach out to, that'd be fantastic. We've had we've had kind of a sustainability corner a couple of times at different Arbor Days over the years, and those have been great to host. And there's been representatives from different groups that were available to be here that day. But that's been as a direct result of some outreach, or at least initial contact from members of this committee to help
Right.
find them. And then we can help process them or help them figure out what to do and when to be there and how to do it.
Okay. So I guess if anybody on the committee has any thoughts into a particular topic matter or whatnot that they want to see at Arbor Day, we need to make those connections before next month to make sure that they're available.
And then I have a note to myself, actually a calendar item for this month, to order a banner so that when the groups add events going forward, so if you're at Chili Fest or at the Morgul event or at the July 4th event, that the experience that you had at Chili Fest where the other committees had a banner and you guys didn't, we won't have banner envy. We can all have a banner. And I have that as an item to make sure you have available before Arbor Day.
Okay,
We
sounds
should
good.
probably use some of the funds for promotional education type materials to have at a table at Arbor Day too. Two topics I think that come to my mind are xeriscaping and composting, like just a really easy way to educate people. So maybe we can start thinking about developing something so that we have that at the tables. We can talk to, if somebody here, we can talk about composting, xeriscaping. I want somebody else to talk about.
Yeah, I think that sounds awesome. I think that's a great idea and two really good subjects to hit on. I know in regards to xeriscaping, is the town inviting anybody this year in terms of that? Because there's usually been, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a few years since I've gone, ever since I got switched to this school weekend off. So I can't recall.
Did it once.
Yeah?
It was poorly attended, but it was a great, I went.
Yeah.
It was a great.
Probably 2 years ago.
More than that. What'd
More
you
than
say?
that, 2 years ago?
Oh, more
Was
than
it?
You're thinking of the garden education series? I think she was referring to Arbor Day.
Oh, I was talking about Arbor Day thing.
I
What-
thought you were talking about the xeriscape.
Well, I was talking about, yeah, a xeriscaping person at the Arbor Day event.
Yeah.
On top of that, and I know that the town used to invite, like Lowe's, and they would come and they would have some plants available for people to be able to look at and understand what they were looking for, and stuff like that really helped, but I don't know
remember
if we
that.
can accomplish that. That was
That wasn't
years
us.
ago. That was, oh, it was.
Had to be
That was when my kids were real little. They used to have it in the parking lot here, and, actually, no, it was behind here. And they would always have, like, the guy from Lowe's over with a bunch of plants, so you would actually understand what it was you were looking for when you went to go and buy them in the shop and whatnot, to kind of supplement what the xeriscaping person was saying. But this was, I mean, my children were little.
Now
So
they're big.
We're talking, yeah, 10 years ago. So, but it'd be great to see that more hands-on, because I think that would get people in as well.
Maybe we can get someone from the Denver Botanic Gardens, because they have the whole plant select program that they do, which is all plants that are xeric and designed just for Colorado, so.
That would be cool. Are you
Awesome.
volunteering
I
to
can
outreach?
reach out, sure.
Because I'd be willing, if somebody like that came in, I'd be willing to go maybe even talk to Lowe's and see if they would donate some plants, just to kind of be able to have a visual
To my yard.
cue on hand.
Yeah.
I have a corner that needs replenishment.
Yeah.
Things died last year.
Oh,
And yeah, prairie dogs now.
No, I don't get in the yard. As long as you have a solid fence, the prairie dogs don't bother you.
okay.
So if there's some ideas from committee members on some
That's
outreach,
awesome. Thank you.
that's great. So, I see you'll touch base with some folks at Denver Botanic Garden. Were there any other ideas or anybody else that wanted to commit to calling somebody or some outreach?
Well, like I said, I'll head over to Lowe's and see if we can get kind of some good examples and stuff too, to kind of beef it up and.
Well, the Center for Resource Conservation puts together their plans. That might be a local resource that might be more willing to stop by here.
Yeah, so they have the garden in a box. That's actually on the work plan.
That stuff's still growing.
Is it?
It was good stuff.
We're still
Don't have to water it, right?
Oh yeah, we researched it last year, so now it's just promoted.
Stuff's growing great still.
Yeah, that'd be a good point of
They
contact.
or something.
It's well suited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe even not on that weekend, 'cause that Earth Day weekend, all of the outreach
Not
people,
everybody's tied up.
is tied up. So maybe even on another day aside from Earth Day, on another weekend that somebody might be willing to come, just hang out in our parking lot and be available, would be great. Those kind of one-to-one, like, what do you call them, like the hands-on, those hands-on learning experiences that you remember an experience from over a decade ago. where you
I
had to
know.
come. So, those are the kind of real tangential experiences that stick with people. So if there's anybody who's willing to do it, we have a parking lot, we don't have a big facility, but we do have something available if somebody's willing to put the time in and just be available, and share some knowledge on landscape techniques, plant species that make sense. Those are always.
Let's
those
see
are
who we
always
can
good
get for the
options.
Arbor Day, and then if we, can't, then we'll kind of move on from there and see if we can get something else informal-ish set up. Yes.
So if I may, I thought you were referring to something else, but 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there was a xeriscaping workshop in here.
Yeah.
And one of the local xeriscape nurseries, I guess they call them nurseries, was here. And it was a great thing, and it wasn't, it was like the day before, it was like Easter Saturday, and not a lot of people, it wasn't well attended. But I've always said, I've said before this committee, I really think we should stick with that. I mean, the HOA would love to get behind that and make it clear that we're definitely in favor and encourage xeriscaping. And it would give us an opportunity to make that point and explain that, you know, the 75-25% rule applies to xeriscaping. You can't take it out and put in rock and mulch, but if people want to put in xeriscape ground cover, we're all for it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I know that, you know, like a big
And we do it
thing-
all, we approve these every week.
Yeah. Now,
But a lot of people just don't understand it. They don't know, don't have information, they don't know where to go.
how many houses do you think have done like a really big sort of overhaul of their garden? Do you think?
You mean with xeriscaping?
Yeah.
Xeriscaping, you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, it's growing really quickly, so I would say it's somewhere in the area of 5% maybe.
Is it something where, are they all behind fences, or are some of them in the front
A
yards?
lot of them in the front yards.
So maybe we could work with the HOA to get people's permission to put them on like a map of.
What's I was thinking,
walk
like
by and
open
view.
gardens, like open community
I was
gardens.
thinking a tour, but almost just a notation for your own walking tour might be.
Mhm.
That's a good idea.
Right, except that my expectation would be that you need to have information with that, otherwise they'll just be
That could
hounding
be-
the.
but that could be
And most of
on
the
the
people
web.
that do this and
They
do
like
it
to
well,
do that, yeah.
they have a professional do it. So, you know, to knock on their door and say, well, what did you use here? They're not going to know.
Yeah, but we could work on it. It could
Work
be
on
both.
with-
I mean, I think it's a good idea, but I'm just saying you'd have to have information.
Permission and go take a tour of 1, 2, 3 homes and him explain what works well here, here's the sun, this
Yeah.
is this plan. So if you get one person from, I mean, because he would have a little bit of an incentive, or she would have an incentive to do it, because if people are interested, it might mean business for that person. And so if we got permission for 2,
Right.
3 homes, you know, and you had sign up and people were interested, they could go out with this professional and learn something about it and see.
Well, if we
That would be
approached,
really
if this
cool.
is what you're saying, or similar to it, if we approached, which we might be able to identify in some, but if we approach sort of some of the companies, the landscapers that do this, and there are a couple that do it predominantly, I mean, it's their business, then they could tell us, who have you done in Rock Creek? And let them put something together that says, you know, this address, this address, this address, and this address, and a little bit about what they did. Something like that.
Yeah, I think we
Um,
could go at it both ways. I mean, I think it'd be great to reach
That's
out
what I was
to
arguing.
the households themselves first, and then, yeah, and jointly tie in with a couple
Or
of companies.
I could- I can't-
We
I
could
can't-
have, this would, it'd be great to have a tour with a gardener.
Mhm.
But
I
a
think it's
self-guided
awesome.
thing where it says on the website, what were the plants and what addresses, you know, and please don't bother the people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's the thing, I mean, over in England, that's what you do. You do this open
Self-guided.
gardens thing, and the person's not necessarily there. They just open up their gardens, and, yeah, they,
If
a
it's
lot
in
of times
front
take the
yard.
care to, like, draw their own little map of what is where.
I mean,
but
we
yeah.
might be able to talk to I might be able to approach the rest of the board and say, maybe we could do a kind of a xeriscape contest like we do Christmas lights and so forth, but
That'd be
to
good.
publicize it.
That'd be
And
really cool.
then people tell us what they're doing, because most of them are pretty passionate about it.
Mhm.
Once you put the time and the money and the investment into it, they're pretty passionate about it. But I'd say that of major landscaping, I'm beginning to think that half of them are really essentially xeriscape, and we're still feeling our way, because it's someone says, this is going to be grass, this is going to be a plant, such and such and such and such. We can, that we can follow. But these xeriscape plans are hard to figure out what it's going to look like, because they're very complicated. They take 2 years at least to grow in.
Right.
And we don't even know most of, they have all these different ground cover plants that are very hard for us to
But you
understand.
know who's applied for them, so it shouldn't be
Yeah.
that hard to kind of reach out and just as a like courtesy
Yeah.
thing.
But anyway,
They would
we
love to hear from
we would
HOA
be
for
very
nice things.
interested in working on that, on xeriscaping.
Okay. Well, we'll just start and see who we can get for Arbor Day and then kind of move on from there. I think that would be fun, Jim.
Arbor Day's
Okay.
early enough, that should work.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess we're going to involve just piddling
Good
around. Should we
suggestion.
just call it good and close the meeting for this month?
Dinner is beckoning.
Our next meeting is February 11th.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, yeah, that's a long weekend that weekend, too.